Slap. The cold red wine trickled down my hair, staining the entire front of my chest red. The chatter around us instantly died. I stood there, even able to hear the liquid drip, drop by drop, onto the marble floor. The woman in front of me held an empty wine glass, the smug smile still lingering on her lips. "Oh, I'm so sorry," Su Manning drawled, shaking the glass in her hand. My hand slipped. "Sister Yunjin won't hold it against me, will she?" She was wearing a champagne-colored mermaid gown, and the diamond necklace around her neck glittered so brightly under the crystal chandelier it hurt my eyes. That was the same design I'd spotted at an auction last month. Back then, Gu Xiaojun said it was too flashy for me. Turns out, it wasn't too flashy, it was meant for someone else. I raised my hand to wipe the wine off my face, my gaze drifting past Su Manning to land 5 steps behind her. Gu Xiaojun stood there, holding a wine glass. His suit sharp, his expression cold. He looked at my disheveled state like he was looking at a stranger, worse than a stranger. Even a stranger would at least hand me a tissue. He didn't move. Not only did he not move, but I clearly caught the faint upward twitch at the corner of his mouth. It was satisfaction. Satisfaction that this woman had done what he wanted to do but couldn't bring himself to do. "Xiaojun," Su Manning turned, clicking her 10-centimeter heels as she walked back to his side, looping her arm through his. "Sister Yunjin seems upset. I really didn't mean it just now." Gu Xiaojun looked down at her, his voice flat as plain water. It's fine. It's fine." 3 words. His wife, the woman he married, the legitimate Mrs. Gu, had just been drenched in red wine in front of everyone, and his response was "It's fine." Gradually, people around began to react, whispering among themselves. Everyone here tonight was someone of standing in Jiangqing's business world, and many of them had attended my wedding to Gu Xiaojun. At that wedding 5 years ago, Gu Xiaojun had slipped a ring onto my finger in front of everyone, promising to protect me for life. Protect me for life. Apparently that meant letting someone else pour wine all over my face today. "Mr. Gu, this." One of the business partner's wives couldn't stand it and tried to hand me a handkerchief, only to be yanked back by her husband. Her husband lowered his voice. "Don't meddle. This is between Mr. Gu and Miss Su. Miss Su's business." In their eyes, Su Manning, standing by Gu Xiaojun's side tonight, was the one worth currying favor with, and me, the legitimate Mrs. Gu, I was just a dispensable decoration. I suddenly laughed. 5 years. I'd been married to Gu Xiaojun for 5 whole years. In those 5 years, I'd used my dowry to fill the holes in his company. I'd pulled strings to help him land a 300 million government project. I'd swallowed my pride and begged the uncles and elders who'd once been close to my father, just to pave a smooth path for his business. I thought that if I was good enough, obedient enough, and didn't cause him trouble, he would eventually really love me. But I forgot. Feed a dog, and it wags its tail. Feed a wolf, and it bites. Gu Xiaojun, I finally spoke, my voice not loud, but every word was crystal clear in the silent banquet hall. He frowned, probably not used to me calling him by his full name in front of so many people. Before, I'd always called him Xiaojun, with a tone of pleading and caution. "Don't you have anything to say?" I stared at him. He pulled Su Manning closer to his side, his tone laced with impatience. "Yunjin, there are a lot of important guests here tonight. Don't make a scene. We'll talk about this when we get home." "I'm not making a scene," I said. "I just want to know, that woman next to you just poured wine all over me. Are you going to do something about it or not?" Su Manning jumped in immediately, her voice syrupy sweet but her face full of provocation. "I already said I didn't mean it. Why is Sister Yunjin so petty? As the wife of Mr. Gu, you should have a little grace and tolerance." Manning, Gu Xiaojun gently stopped her, but his tone was like telling a kid not to eat too much candy. All indulgence. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and when I opened them again, there was no emotion left in them. "Fine," I said. "She didn't mean it. Then don't blame me if what I do next isn't intentional either." With that, I raised my hand and slapped Su Manning right across her meticulously made-up face. Slap. This sound was 10 times louder than the first. Su Manning staggered 2 steps from the force, and if Gu Xiaojun hadn't caught her, she would have hit the floor. She covered her cheek, eyes wide, clearly never expecting the always submissive Lu Yunjin to throw a punch in front of everyone. "You're insane." Gu Xiaojun finally reacted, letting go of Su Manning and grabbing my wrist so hard it hurt down to the bone. "You hit me," Su Manning shrieked, tears spilling on cue. "Xiaojun, she hit me. She actually hit me. Apologize." Gu Xiaojun's voice dropped, his gaze shifting from cold to furious. "Lu Yunjin, apologize to Manning right now." Otherwise, tonight isn't over. My wrist throbbed numb, but I laughed. Apologize. I tilted my head, looking at him like he was a joke. Gu Xiaojun, you want me to apologize to her? Yeah, on your knees. Apologize. On my knees. He actually wanted me on my knees. I nodded lightly, slowly pulling my wrist, bruised purple from his grip, back inch by inch. Gu Xiaojun, I said, you know what my father taught me back in the day? He didn't answer, just stared at me coldly. My father said. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I hadn't called in years. If a dog bites you, don't reason with it, just whip it. The phone rang 7 times, each second was crystal clear. On the 8th ring, someone picked up. A deep, steady voice came through. Miss, you finally called, Uncle Zhou. I locked eyes with Gu Xiaojun, enunciating every word. Please come over now, Jinmao Bay Ballroom, immediately, and inform my father. Tell him his daughter wants to come home. The moment I hung up, I saw Gu Xiaojun's brow twitch. Uncle Zhou, that name wasn't unfamiliar in Jiangqing's business circles. He was the shadow of Lu Jinting, the richest man in the city, inseparable for 30 years, wherever that name appeared. It meant something big was about to go down. You know Lu Jinting's assistant, Gu Xiaojun's voice carried a wariness I'd never heard before. I didn't answer. Instead, I picked up a napkin from the table beside me, slowly and deliberately wiping the lingering wine stains off my face. Gu Xiaojun, I said, tossing the napkin to the floor, you asked me earlier if I'd get on my knees and apologize. I turned around, facing the entire ballroom, my voice hammering each word into everyone's ears. From today onward, any company with business ties to the Gu family, if you continue your partnership from this moment, you will be considered a permanent enemy of the Lu Group. I, Lu Yunjin, mean every word I say. Dead silence. Every guest froze. Someone's glass slipped from their hand, shattering with a sharp crack. Gu Xiaojun grabbed my shoulder. Are you out of your mind? You think you can speak for the Lu Group? Just because your last name is Lu doesn't make you part of their family. Right then, the grand doors of the ballroom burst open from outside. 2 rows of black-suited bodyguards filed in, steps in perfect sync. At the front was an old man with graying hair, but eyes as sharp as a hawk's. He wore a tailored gray Zhongshan suit, gripping an ebony cane as he strode toward me. Everyone recognized him. Zhou Weiguo, chief assistant of the Lu Group, Lu Jinting's right hand. He could speak for Lu Jinting himself. Uncle Zhou, someone murmured, voice trembling. Then, everyone present witnessed a scene they'd never forget. That man who ruled Jiangqing's business world, feared by all, Zhou Weiguo, walked up to me, dropped to one knee, laid his cane across his chest, and spoke in a voice as steady as a bell. Miss, you've suffered. The master is waiting for you to come home. The lights in the ballroom seemed to dim, leaving only the one above me, blindingly bright. I looked down at Uncle Zhou kneeling before me, then raised my eyes to Gu Xiaojun, standing a meter away, his face pale as death, his lips trembled, his Adam's apple bobbed. He was rooted to the spot like a nail. Su Manning tugged at his sleeve, her voice shrill. Xiaojun, is this old man crazy? Kneeling to her, shut up. Gu Xiaojun shoved her hand away so hard she fell to the floor. I met his eyes. Those eyes finally held something I'd waited 5 years to see. Fear. I spoke calmly. Uncle Zhou, get up. Zhou Weiguo rose, turned slightly, and gestured for me to go. I didn't spare Gu Xiaojun another glance, stepping over the shattered light on the floor. I walked out of the ballroom, one step at a time. The sound of my heels echoed through the deathly silent hall. Each step felt like breaking the spine I'd bent for him over these 5 years. Chapter 2. The moment the car door shut, I leaned back into the Rolls-Royce's leather seat, eyes closed, saying nothing. Uncle Zhou sat in the front passenger seat, glancing at me through the rearview mirror without asking a word. He'd been with my father for 30 years. He knew exactly when to speak and when to stay silent. The car pulled out of the underground parking lot of Jinmao Bay, the neon lights outside the window retreating one by one. My phone buzzed frantically in my bag, the screen showing Gu Xiaojun's name. The buzzing stopped, then started again, stopped, then buzzed again. Annoyed, I flipped the phone over and pressed it face down on the seat. Miss, Uncle Zhou's voice came from the front. The master asked me to check. Do you want to go back to the old mansion, or somewhere else first? Not yet. I opened my eyes, gazing at the dazzling nightscape of Jiangqing outside the window. Head to the International Finance Center. Uncle Zhou tilted his head slightly. The International Finance Center, yeah. I curled my lips. The headquarters of the Gu Group is in Tower A of the IFC. My tone was light when I said this, but Uncle Zhou's fingers tightened around the ebony cane he was holding. He caught my drift. There were many roads home, But I chose one that would trample right over Gu Xiaojun's heart by the time the Rolls-Royce pulled to a smooth stop at the entrance of the IFC. The front desk of the Gu group was already in chaos. News from the banquet hall spread faster than the plague. As I walked through the lobby, employees on both sides lowered their heads, none daring to meet my eyes. "Good evening, President Liu," someone spoke up first. Then, a chorus of "Good evening, President Liu" echoed behind me. 5 years, they called me Mrs. Gu for 5 years. Tonight was the first time they changed it. I walked straight into Gu Xiaojun's office. The photo frame on his desk still held our wedding picture. In it, I smiled with naive innocence, while he stood beside me, the curve of his lips stiff as if carved by a knife. I picked up the frame, glanced at it, then let it drop. The sound of shattering glass rang out crisp and clear in the empty office. "Uncle Zhou," I turned around. "Help me with a few things." "Go ahead, miss. First, notify all subsidiaries under the Liu Group and every company with equity ties to lose, effective immediately, terminate all cooperation with the Gu Group, halt every project in negotiation. For those already signed, pay the breach penalties. I want Gu Group's stock price to hit the daily limit down as soon as the market opens tomorrow." Uncle Zhou nodded. "Understood." "Second, send letters to the presidents of all banks in Jiangqing. State that the Liu Group is reassessing its partnerships with financial institutions that have credit dealings with the Gu family." Third, I walked to the floor-to-ceiling window, looking down at the ant-sized traffic below. "Dig up everything on Sue Manning. I want to know which family she belongs to, who's backing her, and what makes her think she can splash her drink on me in my own territory." Uncle Zhou noted everything down and stepped out to make calls. The office was left with only me. The floor-to-ceiling window reflected my silhouette, hair still damp. The red wine stain on my collar already dried into a dark patch. I reached out and touched the stain, my fingertip picking up fine powder. 5 years, I'd worn the cloak of a devoted wife, shrinking myself into a quail, thinking that might earn me a shred of sincerity. I didn't get sincerity. I got a glass of wine thrown in my face. My phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't Gu Xiaojun, it was an unfamiliar number. I pressed answer without saying a word. "Yunjin." Sue Manning's voice exploded from the earpiece, sharp and hysterical. "What are you playing at, you? Have the Liu family calling everyone. You think that scares me and Xiaojun? Let me tell you, Xiaojun couldn't care less about your dirty money. He said even if you're Liu Xinting's daughter, he's still what?" I cut her off, my voice steady and unhurried. "Have him say it to my face." The line went silent for a moment, then came a rustling sound, like someone was wrestling for the phone. "Yunjin." Gu Xiaojun's voice replaced Sue Manning's, softer by at least a notch than it was in the banquet hall. "Don't be rash. Manning doesn't know what she's doing. I'll apologize for her. Come back first, and we'll talk this through properly, okay?" I let out a laugh. 5 years, this was the first time he'd spoken to me in that tone. Before, when he talked to me, it was either commands or dismissals, even in bed, businesslike and cold. "Gu Xiaojun, do you think I'm negotiating with you, Yunjin? We're husband and wife." Husband and wife, I repeated the words, like chewing on spoiled meat. "When you let another woman throw wine in my face. Did you remember we're husband and wife? When you made me kneel and apologize to her, did you remember we're husband and wife?" Gu Xiaojun was silent for a few seconds. When he spoke again, his voice was lower. "I have my reasons. Sue Manning's uncle is a deputy director at the NDRC. The company's been chasing an approval recently, so I'm easier to bully than a deputy director." I finished the sentence for him. He said nothing. "Fine," I nodded, even though I knew he couldn't see me. "Gu Xiaojun, you want that approval, right? Tomorrow morning, when you get to the office, you'll find out whether it can save you." I hung up. Just then, Uncle Zhou pushed the door open and came back in, holding a tablet in his hand. "Miss, Sue Manning's file is ready." I took the tablet. The information on the screen was crystal clear. Sue Manning, 26 years old, local. Her father, Su Jiangwo, runs a small building materials company with an annual output of less than 20 million. Her uncle is indeed in the NDRC, but not as some deputy director, just a deputy section-level researcher. As for the designer brands and jewelry she was flaunting, every cent came from Gu Xiaojun's company accounts. I scrolled further down, my eyes stopping on a single line. Sue Manning's building materials company had secured 3 supplier contracts with the Gu Group last year, totaling over 100 million, and the suppliers with the same qualifications were quoting 15% lower than the Su family. Interesting. I handed the tablet back to Uncle Zhou. Gu Xiaojun uses company money to keep his mistress, then uses her company to bleed the company dry. Isn't that embezzlement? Uncle Zhou's face was expressionless. If the evidence is solid, it can lead to criminal charges. Then find the evidence. I picked up my phone from the table. Before the market opens tomorrow, I want to see every detail of every related party transaction in the Gu Group. As I walked out of the International Finance Center, the night wind hit me, carrying the fishy smell of the river. I looked up at the lights still on in the top floor of Building A. That was Gu Xiaojun's office. In a few hours, those lights would still be on, but the person sitting inside probably wouldn't be smiling anymore. Before getting into the car, I turned back to look at the brightly lit building. The Gu Group sign hung on the glass curtain wall. Glaring under the lights, I suddenly remembered 5 years ago, when I first stood in front of this building. Gu Xiaojun held my hand and said, "One day, this building will be ours." Now I can answer him, this building is mine. As for him, he doesn't deserve it. Chapter 3. At 4 in the morning, I returned to the Liu family's old mansion. The estate sat halfway up a mountain in the western suburbs of Jiangqing, surrounded by 3 kilometers of land that belonged to the Liu family. The car drove past 2 rows of straight plane trees and stopped in front of the gate. The guard at the entrance recognized Uncle Zhou's car, saluted, and the iron gate slid open slowly. I got out of the car and stood at the foot of the front steps, looking up at this house I hadn't seen in 5 years. White marble steps, a rosewood door, and 2 stone lions squatting neatly in the moonlight. Nothing had changed, not even the posture of the ginkgo tree in front of the door. Just like 5 years ago, Miss. Old butler Fu came out from inside, his eyes red, his voice trembling. "You're finally back." I reached out and steadied him. "Fu Bo, where's my father?" "In the study on the 3rd floor. He's been waiting for you all night." I walked through the front hall and climbed the familiar spiral staircase. On the wall hung portraits of past family heads, great-grandfather at the top, then grandfather, then my father. My father had been a soldier when he was young, and in the photo, his eyes had a blade-like sharpness. Now his hair was mostly gray, but that gaze hadn't changed. The study door was slightly ajar, with a warm orange light spilling out. I raised my hand and knocked twice. "Come in." I pushed the door open. My father sat in a wingback chair by the window, holding a purple clay teapot in his hand. He didn't look at me, his gaze fixed on the pitch-black night outside. I walked in and sat down across from him. We sat in silence for about 5 minutes. "You know," he asked, his voice like sandpaper scraping against stone. "I know, and you still went." He set the teapot down on the coffee table and finally turned to look at me, the wrinkles at the corners of his eyes deep as knife cuts. "5 years ago, when I didn't agree to you marrying that Gu guy, you knelt in the study, knelt for an entire night, and said you wouldn't marry anyone else. You could have said no back then." My father suddenly laughed. It was a laugh that had been bottled up for 5 years, helpless, heartbroken. My daughter, Liu Zhenxiao, kneeling on the floor, begging me to let her marry some poor kid who ran a small company. How could I say no? I lowered my eyes. Back then, Gu Xiaojun really was poor. His company had just started, and even renting office space was on installment. I used my dowry to help him with cash flow. I begged Uncle Zhou to introduce him to clients. I lifted him from a nobody with a small business to the top of Jiangqing's business elite. I thought that if I gave enough, I'd get something back. But I forgot that some people's consciences are so rotten that even dogs would turn up their noses at them. That Sioux woman. My father suddenly changed the subject. "Her uncle is just a deputy section chief. Where did she get the nerve to act so high and mighty in front of you?" "Because Gu Xiaojun is on her side," I said. "She thinks that with him backing her, I can't touch her." Father didn't say a word. He just picked up the remote on the coffee table and pressed a button. The projection screen on the wall flickered to life, displaying a complex equity structure chart. I instantly recognized the name at the center, Gu's Group Co., Ltd., registered capital of 500 million, valuation of 4 billion. In the shareholder column, Gu Xiaojun held 51%, with the remaining 49% scattered among a few minor shareholders. "Look closer," Father said. I stared at the screen for 10 seconds, then froze completely. On the second layer of the shareholder structure, there was an inconspicuous holding platform, Jiangqing Yinhe Investment Co., Ltd., holding 29% of Gu's Group, and the actual controller of Yinhe Investment was an asset management company under the Liu family. That asset management company had been transferred to my name 5 years ago as a dowry, meaning, through a 2-tier equity structure, I personally held 29% of Gu's Group, combined with Gu Xiaojun's 51%. The two of us as a couple held 80%, forming absolute control. Back then, you insisted on marrying him, father said, unhurried. I didn't stop you, but when I, illusionting, marry off my daughter, I don't leave things to chance. That dowry was cash in name, but I had Uncle Joe set up a nested structure, turning it into equity in Goose Group. Goose Xiaojun doesn't know about this, neither did you. I stood there, stunned. 29%. That meant, as the second largest shareholder of Goose Group, I had the right to convene a board meeting, to review all company accounts, if we add up the shares of the other minor shareholders, Uncle Joe said, having slipped into the room unnoticed, standing by the door. As long as the eldest young lady can secure over 50% of the voting rights, she can remove Gu Xiaojun from his chairman position. The study was so quiet you could hear the ticking of the wall clock. I looked down at my hands. These hands, for 5 years, they had only served tea, poured water, washed clothes, and cooked meals, offering a sincere heart to be trampled on. But these hands, it turned out, held the power of life and death over Goose Group. Gu Xiaojun had been killing himself to grow the company, to take it public, to push it into the industry's top 10. He thought he was working for himself, but every second, every minute, he was making money for me. Yunjin, father stood up, walked over to me, and reached out to stroke my hair. Your mother left early. I spoiled you so much you never tasted hardship, so when you ran off to marry that poor boy, I thought, let her take a fall, it'll be good for her, and then she'll come home. But I never expected this fall to last 5 years. He pulled his hand back, clasped it behind him, and his voice dropped. Uncle Joe told me everything about tonight. That glass of wine, spilled on you, is as good as spilled on my face. Lu Jintings, from today onward, whatever you want to do, the entire Lu family will back you. If you want to destroy Goose Group, I'll make it vanish from Jiangqing's map by tomorrow. If you want Gu Xiaojun to kneel before you and admit his wrongs, he will kneel. But, he shifted his tone, I have to warn you about one thing. When you take revenge, don't drag yourself down with it. You need to think clearly. Do you want him dead, or do you want him to suffer a fate worse than death? I thought for a full 5 seconds. Father, I lifted my head. I want Gu Xiaojun to kneel before me, but not to me, to kneel before everything he's crushed underfoot these past 5 years. I want him to walk back, step by step, and return everything he took from me, one piece at a time. I want him to live well, and to watch clearly, with his own eyes, as he loses everything. Father looked at me for a long time, then smiled, a genuine smile, carrying the satisfaction of a 50-year-old man who had seen through the world. Now that's a daughter worthy of me. Lu Jinting, he turned to Uncle Joe. Are tomorrow's arrangements all set? Uncle Joe gave a slight bow. All financial media and business journalists have been notified. 8 in the morning, Lu Group Press Conference Hall. Invitations have also been sent to the heads of Fortune Global 500 companies operating in China. Good. Father waved his hand. Let her go. I stood up, walked to the study door, then suddenly stopped. Father, thank you. Thank you for thinking of my escape route 5 years ago. Father didn't turn around. He just picked up his now cold tea, gently blew on it, and said, my daughter doesn't need an escape route. She only needs a road home, Chapter 4, 7:59 in the morning, Lu Group Press Conference Hall. The 3-story high hall was packed. The first row was for financial media, the second for brokerages and investment firms, and from the third row back, all the heads of major Jiangqing enterprises. Not a single empty seat, even the aisles were filled with people standing. I stand behind the curtain of the backstage. Peering through the gap, there are a few familiar faces in the crowd. Last night at the Jean Maobei banquet, they clinked glasses and smiled at Sue Manning. Now they sit in the audience, tense, glancing down at their phones every so often. Clearly, last night's events have already spread through the circle. Miss, it's time. Uncle Joe stands behind me, holding a folder. I take a deep breath and step out from behind the curtain. Every gaze in the room instantly locks onto me. Flashlights crackle and pop, shutters clicking like heavy rain pounding a tin roof. I walk to the podium, no script in hand, both palms flat on the surface, scanning the crowd. The hall gradually falls silent. Ladies and gentlemen, I begin. I am Lu Yunjin. Before last night, some of you knew me as Mrs. Gu, but from today onward, please call me Miss Lu. A faint stir ripples through the audience. The reporters in the front row hammer away at their keyboards, zooming in tighter. I've invited you all here today to announce a few things. I pick up the folder Uncle Joe handed me and flip to the first Page, first, as of midnight tonight, the Lu Group and all its affiliated companies unconditionally terminate all business collaborations with the GU Group. This includes, but is not limited to, the 17 ongoing projects and 4 signed but unexecuted strategic framework agreements. The moment the words leave my mouth, the hall erupts. 17 projects, all stopped. That's nearly 2 billion in contract value. Is she really Lu Jinting's daughter? How come there was no hint of this before? I ignore the chatter and turn to the second page. Second, the commercial factoring company under the Lu Group will suspend, effective immediately, all accounts receivable factoring services for the GU Group and its suppliers. In other words, suppliers of the GU Group, those receivable slips in your hands, the Lu Group is no longer backing them. Go ask Gu Xiaojun for your money. This hits harder than the first. Anyone who's done business knows, once supply chain financing is cut, the upstream and downstream cash flow will trigger a chain reaction within a week. The Lu Factoring Company is Jiangqing's largest supply chain finance provider, and 70% of the GU Group's suppliers rely on Lu's factoring to keep their capital flowing. Now that I've cut it off, within 3 days, Gu Xiaojun's phone will be blown up by suppliers. Third, I close the folder, my voice cutting through the noise. As the second largest shareholder of the GU Group, holding 29% of the shares, I will formally submit a written request to the GU Group's board of directors this afternoon to convene an extraordinary general meeting. The agenda has only one item, the removal of the current chairman, Gu Xiaojun. Silence, dead silence. The crowd that was buzzing moments ago freezes, as if someone hit the mute button. A middle-aged man in glasses shoots up from his seat, his voice trembling. What did you say? You hold 29% of the GU Group's shares. I glance at his name tag, Jiangqing Financial Weekly. Editor-in-Chief. Yes, I say, 5 years ago, my father structured this stake through multiple layers as part of my dowry. Until last night, I was just a full-time housewife who only knew how to cook and clean at home. Starting today, I am the second largest shareholder with 29% of the equity, but with Gu Xiaojun's 51%, don't you two as a couple still hold an absolute majority? Someone shouts from the back. I smile. Gu Xiaojun's 51% is held in his personal name. My 29% is held in my personal name. I enunciate each word. In terms of shareholder voting rights, we are not a couple, we are 2 independent parties, and what's more, I pause deliberately, scanning the room. If I can convince the other minority shareholders to side with me, 29% plus any other block could easily exceed 51%. When that happens, the one being removed won't be me, it'll be him. By the time the press conference ends, my phone is blowing up. The incoming call log is a mess. All Gu Xiaojun's number, then Su Manning's, Gu Xiaojun's parents, several top executives from the GU Group, and even a few of the GU Group's suppliers calling personally. I don't answer a single one. As I walked out of the Lu Corporation building, the sunlight was just right. It was rare for November in Jiangqing to have such good weather. I stood on the steps at the entrance, watching the bustling crowd on the street. Suddenly, I realized that in these 5 years, I had never really looked at the city. My world had only been that 200 square meter apartment, the oil, salt, and sauces in the kitchen, and the dining table that was always waiting for Gu Xiaojun to come back. But he never did. Miss, the car is ready. Uncle Zhou came up from behind. Where to next? I was about to answer when my phone buzzed again. This time, it was Gu Xiaojun's mother. Zhao Guilan. I hesitated for a second, then answered, Lu Yunjin, Zhao. Guilan's shrill voice exploded from the receiver. Are you insane? You want to remove my son from his position? Don't you forget, when you married into the Gu family, you knelt and served tea. Our Gu family honored you by letting you in, and now you're biting the hand that fed you. I moved the phone away from my ear, waiting for her shouting to die down before pressing it back. Mom, no, Aunt Zhao. I corrected my address. You say I look down on the Gu family, but do you know what the registered capital of Gu Xiaojun's company was 5 years ago? 2 million, and my father's dowry, 30 million. That 30 million turned into 29% of the GU Group's equity, and now, what's it worth? 4 billion. Silence on the other end. Let Gu Xiaojun do the math himself. Ask him who's really looking down on who. I hung up and tossed the phone into my bag. Uncle Zhou, to the hospital, the hospital. Uncle Zhou paused. Are you feeling unwell? No. I pulled open the car door and got in. I'm going to see someone who can make sure Su Manning never gets back on her feet, Chapter 5. The car stopped at the entrance of Jiangqing Renai Hospital. I didn't go through the main entrance. Instead, I took the VIP passage from the underground garage straight to the top floor. This hospital was part of the Lu Group's medical division, and the special care ward on the top floor was reserved exclusively for the Lu family. When the elevator doors opened, the head nurse was already waiting. "Miss," she bowed slightly, "the patient's condition is very stable. She had a full checkup this morning, and all indicators are normal. Is she awake?" "Yes, she just finished breakfast." I pushed open the door at the end of the hallway. Inside was a single patient room with excellent lighting. A bouquet of fresh lilies sat on the windowsill. The hospital bed was half raised, and a woman was sitting up against the headboard. She looked to be in her early 20s, with a small face, big eyes, and skin so pale it was almost translucent. Hearing the door open, she turned her head. When she saw me, a flicker of surprise crossed her eyes. "Sister Lu, Xiaotong." I walked over and sat down beside her bed. "Long time no see." Xinruotong, a college student I had sponsored 3 years ago. She had just graduated from medical school and was supposed to become an outstanding surgeon. But a car accident 2 years ago damaged her spine, leaving her wheelchair-bound. The person who hit her was Su Manning. That night, Su Manning was driving drunk on Zhongshan Road. She ran over Xinruotong, who was crossing the street. By normal procedure, drunk driving causing severe injury would mean at least jail time, but Su Manning went to Gu Xiaojun for help. Gu Xiaojun used his connections to change the charge from drunk driving to a regular traffic accident, settling it with a payout of 600,000. Xinruotong's medical expenses had already exceeded 2 million. That 600,000 wasn't even enough to cover the early rehabilitation costs. The rest of the money, I had covered it privately. Gu Xiaojun didn't know. Su Manning knew even less. "Sister Lu, why are you here today?" Xinruotong put down the book in her hands. The cover read "Neurosurgery." "Just came to see you." I picked up an apple from the bedside table and began peeling it slowly. "How have you been feeling lately?" "Much better. I've regained some sensation in my lower limbs. The doctor says if I keep up with the rehabilitation, maybe in a year or two, I'll be able to stand." "That's good." I handed her the peeled apple. "Xiaotong, besides visiting you, there's something else I want to talk to you about." She took the apple but didn't eat it. She just looked at me quietly. "That woman who hit you back then, her name is Su Manning. Do you still remember that name?" Xinruotong's fingers tightened. Her knuckles turned white. How could she ever forget? "Last night at the banquet, she splashed wine in my face." I smiled, and then her backer, my husband, told me to kneel and apologize to her. Xinruotong froze. Her eyes instantly reddened. "Sister Lu, don't cry." I pressed her hand. "I'm not here to complain, I'm here to ask you, if I give you a chance now to reopen Su Manning's criminal case, would you have the courage to step forward?" The room fell silent for 3 seconds. Xinruotong lifted her head, her big eyes brimming with tears, but her voice was unwavering. "I dare, Sister Lu. For the past 2 years, every day I've lain in this bed, closing my eyes to the image of that red sports car charging at me. I can't accept it. How can someone who ruined another's life by drunk driving still live a glamorous life?" "Good." I patted her hand. "I'll have a lawyer come by today. Just tell him exactly what happened. Leave the rest to me." As I walked out of the hospital, Uncle Joe's phone rang. He picked it up, listened for a moment, his face flickering slightly, then handed the phone to me. "Miss, Gu Xiaojun called me." I took the phone. "Lu Yunjin." Gu Xiaojun's voice cracked, hoarse from yelling too long. "Haven't you caused enough trouble? Do you have any idea what you've stirred up this morning? The company's in chaos. 3 suppliers are camped outside the finance office demanding payment. The bank called to reassess the loan limit, and reporters are camped downstairs refusing to leave." "So what?" I leaned back in the car seat, my tone calm. "So come back," he nearly roared. "You're Mrs. Gu, not the eldest Miss Lu. If you want to cause a scene, do it at home. Why take it out on the company?" "Gu Xiaojun, you've got it wrong," I said. "I'm not taking it out on the company. I've finally figured something out. Every cent you've earned in the past 5 years has been on the back of the Lu family. Without the Lu family's connections, you wouldn't have landed those government projects. Without the Lu family's factoring, you couldn't have propped up the supply chain. Without the Lu family's equity, you wouldn't even have the right to stand where you are and toast those big shots." He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was lower, carrying a hint of pleading I'd never heard before. "Yunjin, I know I've wronged you. give me a chance, let's start over, come back, I'll send Su Manning away, never see her again, we can have a child, live a normal life. Too late, I cut him off. Gu Xiaojun, do you remember what I was thinking last night when you made me? Kneel and apologize to her. I was thinking, this man isn't worth it. I hung up and handed the phone back to Uncle Zhou. Uncle Zhou, how's the lawyer preparation going? Already arranged. The files from the car accident case are being retrieved. Should arrive by tomorrow at the latest. Also, we've obtained Su Manning's bank records. Over the past 2 years, Gu Xiaojun transferred her more than 8 million yuan from the company accounts. That's enough to constitute embezzlement. 8 million. I let out a soft laugh. The most expensive thing Gu Xiaojun ever bought me was a silk scarf for my birthday last year, 800 yuan. The car drove out of the hospital gates, merging into the midday traffic. Sunlight streamed through the window, warming my face. Miss, where to next? To the company, I said. Gu Group, time to meet our Mr. Gu, Chapter 6, 2 in the afternoon, Gu Group headquarters. As I stepped out of the elevator, the front desk girl nearly dropped the phone in shock. She scrambled to her feet, wanting to stop me but too scared to try, her mouth opening and closing before she finally squeezed out, MS, Lu, Mr. Gu is in a meeting. Perfect, I said without slowing down. How can a meeting be complete without me, the second largest shareholder? I pushed open the conference room door. The long table was packed on both sides with all of Gu Group's directors and executives. Gu Xiaojun sat at the head, in a dark blue suit, his hair perfectly slicked back. The moment he saw me, his fingers tapped unconsciously on the table, a nervous habit of his. Meeting adjourned, he announced to everyone, then stood and walked over to me, lowering his voice. Yunjin, let's talk in my office, not in front of all these people. Why talk privately? I raised my voice so everyone in the room could hear. I'm here for the board meeting today, as a shareholder with 29%. Do I have the right to sit here? Dead silence fell over the room. The directors exchanged glances, some looking down at their phones, others pretending to scribble in notebooks, none daring to speak first. Gu Xiaojun's face shifted through several expressions before he forced a smile. Of course you do, you're my wife, we can talk about this at home, Mr. Gu, in the company, please call me MS, Lu. I walked past him, straight to the other end of the table, pulled out a chair, and sat down. I'm here for one thing today. I took a document from my bag and slapped it onto the table. Here is the complete list of all the funds you transferred from the company account to Su Manning's personal account over the past 2 years, total 8,230,000. This doesn't include the cars, jewelry, and other luxury goods you bought for her under the company's name. If we add it all up, the amount exceeds 12 million. Gu Xiaojun's face went pale instantly. You investigated me. He stared at me in disbelief. You checked my accounts. The company's accounts, shareholders have the right to review them. I leaned back, crossing my legs. CEO Gu, Article 271 of the criminal law states that if a company employee uses their position to illegally take company property for themselves, and the amount is substantial, they face up to 5 years in prison. If the amount is huge, they face more than 5 years. 12 million, does that count as huge? A collective gasp rippled through the conference room. The legal director was the first to stand, his face even paler than Gu Xiaojun's. President Lu, we need to conduct an internal investigation on this. No need for an internal investigation. I pulled another document from my bag. This is the audit report. I've hired a third-party auditing firm to review all related party transactions of the Gu Group over the past 3 years. You wouldn't believe what we found. Besides Su Manning's 8 million, there are also 2 shell companies registered under Gu Xiaojun's mother, Zhao Guilan's name, which siphoned nearly 40 million from the Gu Group. I slid the audit report to the director next to me. Directors, your shares may not be huge, but every cent is real money you invested. Gu Xiaojun has been using your money to support his mistress and funnel cash to his family. Don't you have anything to say? Silence lasted only 5 seconds. Then, the director sitting to my left, Su Jiangwo, spoke first. CEO Gu, what President Lu said, you need to explain yourself. Then a second, CEO Gu, the company's money can't be spent like this. We're all small shareholders, we can't afford this kind of mess. A third was even more direct. I propose convening an extraordinary shareholders meeting to re-elect the chairman. Gu Xiaojun stood at the conference table, like a man stripped naked in public. He looked at one person, then another, his lips trembling, but not a single word came out. I stood up, bracing my hands on the edge of the table, facing him. Gu Xiaojun, 5 years ago, you had nothing, I gave you everything, now, I'm taking back what's mine, and by the way, I smiled, I'm taking yours too. I turned and walked away. The sound of my high heels clicking against the floor was crisp and resolute in the silent conference room. When I reached the door, I paused without looking back. Oh, and don't forget to check the news after the meeting. Sue Manning has already been taken away by the police for questioning. The charge, a DUI that caused serious injury 2 years ago. This time, no one can sweep it under the rug for you. Behind me came a dull thud, the sound of Gu Xiaojun collapsing back into his chair. I didn't look back. I pushed open the door and walked out. Chapter 7. After leaving the Gu group, I received a call from Uncle Zhou, saying the police had officially filed the case and Sue Manning was in criminal detention. Hanging up, I rolled down the car window, letting the early winter wind rush into the cabin. The air carried the scent of the river, mixed with the sweet aroma of sugar-roasted chestnuts. From a street vendor, for the first time in 5 years, I felt like this city's winter was breathable. Miss, back to the old mansion, asked Old Chen, the driver. No, I said, to Jean Maobei. Old Chen hesitated noticeably. He probably couldn't figure out why I'd want to return to that place from last night, but Uncle Zhou had told him, from today on, wherever I said to go, we went, no questions asked. The Jean Maobei banquet hall looked completely different in daylight compared to last night. The crystal chandeliers were off, the red carpets rolled up and taken away, leaving the empty hall with only a few rows of stacked chairs. A cleaning lady was mopping the floor, pushing the mop over the spot where I had stood last night. The red wine stain had long dried, but a faint mark still lingered on the marble. I stood over that faint stain, staring down at it for a long time. Miss, should I turn on the lights? The cleaning lady recognized me and spoke cautiously. No, I said, it's better like this, in the dark. Some things can only be understood in the shadows. Why did Gu Xiaojun marry me? Not because he loved me, because I was stupid, a woman willing to bring a 30 million dowry and ask for nothing in return. To any man, that's a good deal. I thought I was marrying for love, but in his eyes, I was just a long-term meal ticket. Once the ticket wore out, he got a new one. Sue Manning wasn't his first woman, and she won't be his last, but Sue Manning was the dumbest, dumb enough to think throwing wine in my face would let her take my place. She had probably figured it all out in the detention center. If Gu Xiaojun couldn't even save himself, how could he save her? My phone rang, an unfamiliar number. I picked up, and a frail, cautious voice came through. MS, Lu, I'm Sue Manning's father, Su Jiangwo. I know Manning has done a lot of things she shouldn't have to you, as her father. I'm here to apologize on her behalf. Su Jiangwo's voice didn't sound like a plea. More like he was checking off a box. Could you go easy on her, Mr. Sue? I cut him off. The night your daughter hit someone with her car, did you apologize for her then? Silence on the other end. You didn't, I answered for him, because you thought paying 600,000 was enough. The girl she hit has a damaged spine. She might never walk again. Your daughter paid 600,000, then went right back to wearing designer brands, driving luxury cars, and flaunting herself in my husband's arms. Mr. Sue, if you can't discipline the daughter you raised, someone else will. I hung up. By dusk, I was back at the Liu family estate. My father wasn't home. Uncle Fu said he'd gone to the golf course to play with some old friends. I knew he was doing it on purpose. He told me before that he was leaving this matter entirely in my hands. No questions, no interference. He wanted me to grow a backbone on my own. I went up to the 3rd floor, walked into the study, and sat down in my father's armchair. Outside the window, the sunset painted the hillside in gold. The entire city of Jiangqing sprawled at the foot of the mountain, bathed in a warm glow. 5 years ago, I knelt here begging my father to bless my love. Back then, my world revolved around Gu Xiaojun and no one else. I thought he was worth more than everything combined. Looking back now, how naive. The most unreliable thing in the world is the man you'd give your life for. He'll marry you for your resources, and he'll dump you for a bigger prize. My phone rang again. This time it was Gu Xiaojun's mother, Zhao Guilan, but not her calling directly. It was the Gu family's butler. He said the old lady had collapsed this afternoon and was now in the emergency room at People's Hospital, mumbling about wanting to see me. I was about to say no, but then I changed my mind. I went. At the hospital, Zhao Guilan lay on the bed, her face pale, an ice pack on her forehead. When she saw me come in, she struggled to sit up, but the nurse held her down. Yanjin, her voice was hoarse, a world away from the woman who'd cursed me on the phone this morning. Please, as your mother, I'm begging you, let Xiaojun go. He's still your husband, you've been married for 5 years, Auntie Zhao. I stood by the bed, not sitting down. This morning, you said it was an honor for me to marry into the Gu family, now you're begging me instead. Her lips trembled, and tears streamed down her cheeks. I'm old and confused. I said the wrong thing, Yunjin. Even if you don't care about the monk, care about the Buddha, you and Xiaojun were married under heaven and earth. Married, I repeated the word softly. Auntie Zhao, do you know how many women Gu Xiaojun has kept on the side? She froze. Su Manning wasn't the first, and she won't be the last. He just hid it well, and I never bothered to check. In the last 3 days, I had someone dig through 5 years of his call logs and hotel check-ins. Do you want to see? Zhao Guilan opened her mouth, but no words came out. I turned and walked out of the room, pausing at the door. Auntie Zhao, your son's problems aren't my doing. He chose his own path. If you really want to save him, tell him to resign as chairman and cooperate with the internal investigation. Otherwise, I didn't finish. I pushed the door open and left. The night wind hit my face, carrying the sterile smell of disinfectant. I stood on the steps of the emergency building, looking up at the deep blue sky. No moon tonight, but the stars were especially bright. My phone screen lit up, a message from Uncle Zhou. Miss, all the minority shareholders have confirmed they're on our side. The date for the extraordinary general meeting is set, the day after tomorrow, in the afternoon. Vote to remove the chairman. I looked at the message and smiled. 5 years ago, the last thing I did for Gu Xiaojun was kneel before my father and beg him to let us be together. The day after tomorrow, the last thing Gu Xiaojun will do for me is kneel before the entire company and get thrown out. Chapter 8. On the day of the extraordinary general meeting, Jiangqing saw its first snowfall of winter. The snowflakes were not large, drifting finely and densely through the air, turning into puddles of water as they hit the ground. I stood in the coffee shop across from the Gu Corporation building, holding a hot Americano, watching the cars slowly pulling into the company entrance. A black Mercedes came to a stop, and Director Su Jiangwo stepped out. Right behind it, a white BMW, from which shareholder Liu Yuandong emerged, hunching his shoulders and scurrying quickly into the building. Miss, it's time, Uncle Zhou said from behind me, holding a black umbrella. I finished the last sip of my coffee, tossed the paper cup into the trash, and walked out of the coffee shop. Uncle Zhou held the umbrella over my head. The fine snowflakes landed on the fabric with a faint, rustling sound. I crossed the street, my high heels leaving one footprint after another in the thin slush. The glass doors of the Gu Corporation slid open automatically. The receptionist at the front desk saw me, instinctively stood up, then, as if remembering something, silently sat back down. She no longer knew whether to call me Mrs. Gu or President Liu. When the elevator reached the top floor, the hallway was already packed. Besides the directors and shareholders, there were also many media reporters. A cameraman from the financial channel carried his equipment on his shoulder, the lens aimed at the conference room door. I walked through the crowd, and the reporters' flashlights followed my back in a frenzy of bursts. President Liu, do you think you can secure more than half of the supporting votes? President Liu, has President Gu agreed to resign voluntarily? I didn't answer a single question, pushing open the heavy wooden door of the conference room. Everyone inside turned to look at me at the same time. Gu Xiaojun sat in the main seat, 3 days apart, and he looked like his soul had been drained. His once well-fitted suit hung loosely on his shoulders, his eyes were sunken, and dark stubble sprouted on his chin. When he saw me, his lips twitched, as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, he just looked away. I sat down in the seat across from him. The meeting was presided over by independent director Sun Qiming. Sun Qiming was an old man in his 60s, wearing reading glasses, speaking slowly and methodically. He first read out the convening procedures and attendance status of this extraordinary general meeting, then announced the start of the formal agenda, the motion to remove Gu Xiaojun from his position as chairman. According to the company's Articles of Association, removing the chairman requires the approval of more than half of the voting rights held by the attending shareholders. Sun Qiming adjusted his glasses. Now, please let the proposing party state their reasons. I stood up. The conference room fell so silent that you could hear the sound of snowflakes hitting the glass outside the window. Dear shareholders, I propose to remove Mr. Gu Xiaojun from his position as chairman for the following reasons. I opened the folder, my voice steady and clear. First, Mr. Gu Xiaojun used his position to transfer over 12 million yuan of company funds to Su Manning through related party transactions. suspected of embezzlement, and is currently under police investigation. Second, Mr. Gu Xiaojun established a shell company in the name of his mother, Zhao Guilan, to siphon nearly 40 million yuan from Gu Corporation. Third, I looked up at Gu Xiaojun. Third, during Mr. Gu Xiaojun's tenure, the company's core business became heavily dependent on the Lu Group. Now, due to personal reasons, all cooperative relationships with the Lu Group have been severed. The company's projected losses over the next 3 months will exceed 500 million. As a chairman, he is no longer qualified, in both personal conduct and business judgment, to lead this company. After speaking, I closed the folder and sat down. Sun Qiming cleared his throat. Now, please let Mr. Gu Xiaojun present his defense. Gu Xiaojun slowly stood up. He looked at me, his expression complicated, as if he were looking at a stranger. After a long silence, he finally spoke, his voice hoarse like sandpaper scraping against glass. I have nothing to say. For words, the entire room erupted in uproar. Sun Qiming seemed caught off guard that he had given up even on defending himself. He paused for a moment before continuing. Then, we will now proceed to the vote. Shareholders in favor of removing Mr. Gu Xiaojun from his position as chairman, please raise your hands. I was the first to raise my hand. Then, like dominoes falling, one hand after another went up. Su Jiangwo, Lu Yuandong, 3 small shareholders, each holding over 3% of the shares. Then came the shareholders with only 1 or 2%. Everyone's hands were raised in the air, like a forest that had suddenly sprouted. Sun Qiming counted once and announced the result. The votes in favor account for 67% of the total voting rights, exceeding the majority. I declare that the motion to remove Gu Xiaojun from his position as chairman is passed. Gu Xiaojun closed his eyes. The hand he had clenched tightly on the table slowly loosened. After the meeting ended, Gu Xiaojun was the first to walk out of the conference room. I followed him and called out to him at the corner of the hallway, Gu Xiaojun. He stopped but didn't turn around. I walked up to him, holding a stack of documents in my hand. This is the divorce agreement. I slid the document across the table. The property division is all laid out. I'm giving up everything from our marriage, the 200 square meter apartment, the Porsche in the garage, all the deposits under your name. I only want 29% of the Gu Group's shares, which was my father's dowry in the first place. He took the document but didn't flip through it. He just stared at the 5 characters on the cover. Divorce agreement. Yunjin. His voice came out soft, like smoke about to dissipate. What if I said, in these 5 years, there was one moment when I was sincere? Don't. I cut him off. Your one moment isn't worth a damn. I pulled a pen out of my bag and handed it to him. Sign it. He took the pen, his hand trembling. The tip hit the paper, tearing through the thick stack of documents. He signed slowly, each stroke like cutting into his own flesh. When the last page was done, he handed the pen back and looked up, his eyes red-rimmed. You'll regret this, he said, a last shred of defiance in his tone. I took the signed agreement, carefully checked every page for his signature, then tucked it into my bag. Gu Xiaojun, the only thing I regret, I met his eyes, is saying I do at our wedding 5 years ago. I turned around. Uncle Zhou was already waiting by the elevator. The snow was still falling, thicker than when I'd arrived. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows in the hallway, the entire city of Jiangqing was wrapped in a blanket of white. I stepped into the elevator and pressed the button for the first floor. As the doors slid shut, I heard a dull thud from the end of the hallway, like someone had finally given in and dropped to their knees. Chapter 9. A week later, Sue Manning's case went to trial. I didn't attend in person, but my lawyer gave me a live text feed throughout. In the courtroom, Sue Manning had none of the arrogance she'd flaunted at the banquet hall that day. She wore the blue vest from the detention center, her hair dry and messy, her face bare and looking at least 10 years older than her actual age. Shinruaton was wheeled into the witness stand in a wheelchair, facing the judge's questions. She reconstructed every detail of that night 2 years ago, word by word. The traffic police presented photos from the accident scene, blood-smeared and long streaks across the asphalt. The forensic examiner submitted the injury assessment report: spinal damage, second-degree severe injury. The prosecution played footage from the intersection surveillance camera, a red sports car swerving wildly through a red light, hitting a girl on the crosswalk, then speeding away. Sue Manning broke down in court, screaming that she hadn't meant to, that she'd been too scared at the time. The judge ignored her pleas. When the gavel came down, the verdict hit her Like a hammer, hit and run causing severe injury, with aggravated circumstances of drunk driving, sentenced to 6 years in prison, and ordered to pay full medical costs and emotional damages totaling 3,200,000 yuan. When the lawyer sent the last message, I was in the study of the Liu family's old mansion, playing chess with my father. I glanced at my phone screen and read the message aloud to him. 3,200,000, my father placed a black piece. Without looking up, she can't afford it. The Su family's building materials company filed for bankruptcy 2 days ago. I know, I placed a white piece. After Gu Xiaojun went down, all of Su's contracts got cancelled, banks wouldn't lend, suppliers wouldn't deliver, they lasted less than 5 days before collapsing. That was all expected. But you, my father looked up, his eyes sharp with scrutiny. How have you been feeling these past few days? I thought about it. Hard to say, I admitted. Not as satisfying as I imagined, but not as painful either. It's like I finally took off a stone I'd been carrying on my back for 5 years. I feel lighter, but my spine is still a little bent. I need to straighten it slowly. My father nodded, didn't press further, and turned his attention back to the chessboard. Over the years, I'd learned one thing: a truly good move isn't about capturing your opponent's pieces, but about trapping them so they can't move at all. On her first night in prison, would Su Manning think back to the glass of wine she'd thrown at the banquet hall? Would she regret it? Probably not. She'd only regret that her luck ran out, that she ran into a wife like me who wouldn't back down. As for Gu Xiaojun, he was probably thinking too, thinking about why he traded a lifetime of wealth and status for a moment of novelty. After 3 rounds of chess with my father, I lost every one. I used to beg him to go easy on me, but today he didn't hold back at all. He said my skills no longer needed handicaps. In the evening, I went to the Gu group. Standing outside, I looked up at the gold-lettered signboard. For the first time, I felt like this thing was truly mine. The new chairman hadn't been elected yet, so the company was temporarily managed by an interim committee. The head of the committee came to see me, respectfully reporting the latest business status. After the Liu Group terminated its partnership, the company's business volume plummeted by 70%. Cash flow was tight, and without new capital injection, it wouldn't last more than 3 months. 3 months is enough, I said. Let them feel the pain, then they'll know who to listen to from now on. Back at the old mansion that night, after showering and changing into my pajamas, I was about to turn off the lights and go to sleep when my phone suddenly rang. It was Gu Xiaojun's number. I didn't answer. The ringtone died out on its own. Then his text came in, just 2 lines. Su Manning got 6 years. Are you satisfied? I looked at the text and smiled. He thought I was just taking revenge on Su Manning. He didn't understand, or maybe he didn't want to, that what brought me here wasn't hate. It was that I had finally cut the word love out of my life. I replied with 3 words, not satisfied. Then I sent another, your turn hasn't come yet, comma, chapter 10. The day Gu Xiaojun was formally arrested happened to be the 8th day of the 12th lunar month. It had been over a month since that banquet. A month was enough time for many things to turn from news into old news, enough for the once dashing Mr. Gu to become a suspect in a detention center. The charge wasn't embezzlement. That case was still under investigation, the evidence chain too complex. What actually got him locked up first was something I hadn't noticed before. 3 years ago, Gu Xiaojun had been involved in bid rigging for a government PPP project. It was a project led by the Liu Group, using insider information he'd gotten from me. He obtained the base price in advance, colluded with 2 other companies to rig the bids, and made illegal profits of over 50 million yuan. The whole thing was done so discreetly that even I hadn't caught on. It wasn't until Su Manning's trial that her uncle, hoping for a reduced sentence, voluntarily offered this lead to the prosecutors. So, in the 2nd week after Su Manning went to prison, Gu Xiaojun followed her in. The day the news broke, Jiangqing's financial media went into a frenzy. The newspaper headlines were more sensational than the last. The Gu empire collapses overnight, power couple both behind bars, the heiress's bitter revenge. A full recap. My name trended on the hot search for 3 whole days, with comments ranging from calling me ruthless to cheering me on, and even a Mary Sue version of the revenge story so detailed I almost believed it myself. I didn't respond to any of it. I just sent Uncle Zhou to the detention center to deliver a Message to Gu Xiaojun, what you owed Xinruotong, I took back for her, what you owed me, forget it, it's not that I forgive you, it's that you owe too much, and you'll never pay it off. When Uncle Zhou came back to relay the message, he also told me Gu Xiaojun's reaction. He sat in the visitation room in silence for a long time, then lowered his head and said, if there's a next life and I meet her again, I won't let her lose. After Uncle Zhou finished speaking, I popped the half-peeled tangerine in my hand into my mouth, chewed it, and then spoke. He hasn't even finished this life, and he's already thinking about the next. Uncle Zhou didn't say anything. On the 15th day of the 12th lunar month, I officially took over the Gu Group, not as Mrs. Gu, but in my dual capacity as Executive Vice President of the Lu Group and the largest shareholder of the Gu Group. At the interim shareholders meeting, Sun Qiming read out the final resolution. I was appointed as the new chairman of the Gu Group, fully responsible for the company's restructuring and transformation. After the inauguration ceremony, I stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of the Gu Group's top-floor office, looking down at the city. A little over a month ago, I was drinking coffee across the street from this building, waiting to watch Gu Xiaojun get kicked out. Now, the person sitting in the chairman's office was me. The snow outside the window was falling heavily, far heavier than that first snow. The entire city was covered in layer after layer of white, the headlights of cars turning into flowing golden threads through the snow curtain. I reached out and wrote a single character on the glass, Lu. The cold from outside seeped through the glass into my fingertips, aching with cold, aching into clarity. My phone vibrated on the desk. The screen showed my father's number. Dad, busy. His voice was as steady as ever. Just finished a meeting. How does it feel? I turned my head to look at the chairman's office behind me. That genuine leather swivel chair Gu Xiaojun had sat in for 3 years was empty now, waiting for its new owner. Nothing special, I said, just, the chair's pretty hard, I'll need to get a new one. My father let out a soft laugh on the other end of the line. Lu Yunjin, he said, using my full name with a solemn tone, remember this, today isn't the end, it's the beginning. You've got a long road ahead, plenty of people to meet, don't let one bad apple make you think the whole barrel's rotten. I know. And, his voice softened a little, the 23rd of the 12th lunar month is your mother's death anniversary. This year, take her favorite flowers and go see her. It's been 5 years. I held the phone, silent for a few seconds. Okay, I'll bring 2 bouquets. After hanging up, I stood by the window for a long time. Outside, the snow was falling heavier, the sky already pitch black, but the city lights painted the night like dusk. I looked down at my hands, nails trimmed clean and neat. No polish, and on my ring finger, a pale indent left by the wedding band I'd worn for 5 years. I took off the ring, placed it in the bottom drawer of my desk, and slid it shut. Uncle Zhou knocked and came in, holding a gold-embossed invitation. Miss, this year's Jiangqing Business Circle Annual Gala has sent an invitation. The host wants you to give the opening speech. What should I put for your title? I took the invitation and flipped it open. Just right. I paused. Lu Yunjin, Executive Vice President of the Lu Group, Chairwoman of the Gu Group. Uncle Zhou nodded and jotted it down in his memo. As he turned to leave, I called him back. Uncle Zhou, how long does it take for a person to completely erase someone else from their life? Uncle Zhou thought for a moment and gave me an unexpected answer. Miss, you don't need to erase it. A wound always leaves a scar. Scars aren't there to look pretty, they're to remind you that spot got hurt before. So don't let anyone touch it again. I smiled. This old assistant, who'd followed my father for 30 years, never said anything sentimental, but every word hit like a nail, steady and firm. Thank you, Uncle Zhou. He gave a slight bow and stepped out of the office. The moment the door clicked shut, the office fell into absolute silence, only the faint hum of the heater and the soft patter of snow and wind against the window. I sat down in that damn hard chair and opened the first file on the desk. The title read, *Gu Group Asset Restructuring and Strategic Transformation Plan*. On the blank space of the first page, I wrote today's date with a pen, the 15th of the 12th lunar month. 5 years ago on this day, I got my marriage certificate with Gu Xiaojun. 5 years later, here I am in his old office, signing a restructuring plan that will wipe his traces clean. Life is like that sometimes. What you think is the end is just another beginning. The abyss you think you can't climb out of is just a pit. Look down, and it's all mud. Look up, and it's all sky. I lowered my head and signed my name at the bottom of the first page. Lu Yunjin, 3 words, not Mrs. Gu, not someone's daughter, not someone's accessory, just herself. Outside, the heavy snow fell silently, blanketing the entire city of Jiangqing. Come next spring, when the snow melts, everything old will be washed away, new things will sprout from the thawed soil, no one knows what will grow. But at least it will be something born from this land itself, and so am I. The end.